Welcome back to Social Anxiety Life. In the second episode, we're going to be exploring everyday situations and how this creates social anxiety for us. These may include things like uh, shopping, going for coffee, or even going to the pub.
Okay, do you want to get us started? Because I think last episode you did talk a bit about shopping.
Yeah, I find that going to the shop, particularly food shopping, if it's food shopping or clothes shopping or whatever, that can create anxiety because as soon as you go into the shop itself, even though you know what you're going in there for, sometimes you get that unexpected anxiety through if someone comes up to you and asks you need any help with anything. That for me creates a little bit of anxiety because I don't know what to say to them.
Right.
Even though I know what I've gone in there for.
Yeah.
And I'm browsing, and I'm quite happy browsing the items in the shop. But someone came up to me and sort of talking to me, and it's like I just want you to go away so I can get on with it.
Yeah.
Do you have the same?
I don't really get that with being in shops and stuff like that. To be honest, that's not really. But sometimes if I have to go somewhere I haven't been before, that can give me a bit of anxiety. So like I'll always check that I know how to get there, like really make sure I know the route.
Yeah.
Because the thought of going somewhere I haven't been before, or if I have to get like a train and then a tube and then change and all that stuff, that can create quite a low level of anxiety, but I definitely get that.
See, that bit doesn't bother me at all. It's like if I go to meet a friend, like I did yesterday, I vaguely know the route of getting there. So that doesn't really bother me. And as you say, if something unexpected happens, so if something like like Dave and the strikes on the trains, or say that your friend that you've arranged to meet may be running late, for example.
Yeah.
That to me, if someone says they're late, that it bothers me more than gives me anxiety because I've tried to make sure, as far as I can, to be there at the time that we've said we're going to be there. And obviously, if there's things outside your control that prevent you from being there on time, that doesn't bother me because there's obviously a concrete reason for that. But if there's sort of no clear reason for it, it sort of bothers me a bit. And then I've got to think about, right, I'm waiting around now for however long I'm waiting around for. I've then got to think of what to do in order to stop sort of feeling anxious about, like, if I'm waiting outside the station, like people looking at me, people.
Right, yeah.
So normally I just put my headphones on.
Yeah, that's always a good way to kind of. I always have my headphones in wherever I go. But I had a situation where I was going to see a mutual friend of ours, and kind of got maybe halfway there, and then was meant to be getting on the tube, and then the announcement came, the whole tube line is suspended. And so immediately it wasn't awful. It was, again, low level anxiety, but I was like, I don't know what I'm doing now. Like, I don't really know where I am. I know the route I was supposed to be taking. Now I actually don't know what to do or how to get there. And it was and I was so tempted to just turn around and go home. I didn't, but I was very tempted because I just thought, I don't know how to get there. And now I've got to look up a whole new route, and I'm going to be in areas I've never been before. And
the saying that doesn't bother me at all because I know my sort of knowledge of the tube routes, bus routes, and whatever is pretty good. But the fact that the tube network that particular line wasn't working.
Yeah,
that's obviously something out of your control. You couldn't have predicted that would happen. So it was just then. It's then what route you had to take.
Yeah.
In order to get there that provoked the anxiety.
Yeah, I think it was just the thought of like, okay, so where do I go now? And okay, I could jump on this bus, but then where do I get off the bus? It's just that said, it was a low level of anxiety, but it was definitely anxiety inducing because it was out of my control.
I also get anxiety when, I have to make a phone call to somebody. So someone I've got something I have to speak to someone about. Like I had to speak to someone at the council a couple of days ago about my council tax bill.
Yeah.
And I kept putting it off, but it's something I needed sorting out. And I could have emailed.
Yeah.
But the council that I'm with says that email responses will be made within 10 days. Well, and it's something that couldn't wait 10 days.
Right, yeah.
And so I phoned them up, and you get the automated message to say that you're in, like 20 in the queue or something. And then I have to make a decision: do I want to wait longer, or do I phone back later and chance to see if I'm less in the queue or whatever? So I stayed in the line, but then when I got through to the person, what I said was fine.
Yeah.
I made my point clear, but it just felt a bit awkward.
Yeah. I'm just, as we're talking about it, do you think that's a social anxiety thing, or do you just think that's the general thing, not phoning people? Because I'll be honest, I text everyone. I never phone people. Very rarely will I phone anyone and have a conversation over the phone. But I've never really thought about, is that social anxiety, or is that just me?
But then if you're seeing them really in real life, sometimes you can pick up on like the body language cues, social cues, and whatever. But
yeah,
I don't get as much on the phone as I do in real life.
Oh yeah, definitely not. No, and I will go out shopping on my own. Like I'll get on a train and I'll go to like a shopping centre and shop for a couple hours by myself. So I'm all right with things like that, but we've talked about this. I've never sat in a restaurant. I've never like eaten by myself in a restaurant before. I don't think I've ever sat in a coffee shop by myself and like ordered food and drink and just sat there for like an hour or two. I've never gone to the cinema by myself. And I feel like that's probably an anxiety thing, because I think it's that thing of being like hyper aware of yourself and what other people are thinking about you. Just being like overly aware of yourself when really probably no one cares.
No, it's funny. I've done all of those things. I've been to coffee shops. I've been to restaurants. I go to bars on my own.
Yeah, see, that's.
I go to a club. I've been to a club on my own.
I could never.
I don't know if that's more. Do you think that's maybe? I don't know if it's because traditionally it was seen like if males going to bars on their own, it was generally seen as okay, and if
it's probably anxiety, but it probably also is just, not to go into stereotypes, but as a female, the thought of going to a club by yourself, probably that sort of safety aspect does come into it as well. But I find that quite impressive, the fact that you just go out to bars by yourself, because I don't think I ever could.
When I go to clubs, there's one particular club, the Royal Vauxhall Tavern, that I go to on my own.
Yeah.
And I think for me, there's no anxiety there because of its size. The size itself it's small, it's intimate, and there's regulars there. So I think whenever I go there, there's people there that I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's less anxiety there. And I think if you choose to sort of spend it on your own, there's no sort of judgment over it.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of links back when we were talking in the last episode about other people and what they think. I think that's a good example of a space where there isn't that judgment at all.
Yeah.
I think because it's a club, it's quite loud, so you've almost got that sensory stuff that it almost eliminates the anxiety a little bit.
Yeah, because I guess there's things to kind of distract you, aren't there? Like you can listen to the music, you can have a little dance. It's probably harder in a quieter space because there's more chance you're going to have to make conversation.
Yeah, it's funny. Like if I go to a bar on my own or a pub on my own, So I've been out shopping. I thought I'll have a little drink on the way
Yeah.
home, and I'll do it. I'll go and sit and have a drink, and usually it works out fine. I just sit on my own. But then if someone does come and talk to me, that's where it does feel a little bit. It feels very awkward because it's an unexpected social interaction. So in my head, I'm already thinking, why has this person come over here? What do they want?
Yeah.
Why can't they leave me alone?
Yeah.
How can I get them to go away without being rude?
Yes.
Sometimes the conversation will pick up.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to what they've got to say and try and link something that I've experienced or something I'm interested in to what they're talking about. And then it generally goes okay.
Yeah.
But it's difficult.
Yeah. I think that was a good point you made though about, you go to what is it, Royal Vauxhall
Tavern, yeah.
And it's like comfortable there. But I suppose probably the first time you went there, you probably were a bit anxious. So I guess it's that thing, isn't it? It's like, it's about going somewhere the first time's always going to be the hardest, isn't it? That's probably when you're going to feel your most anxious. But once you keep going, you keep persevering, if it's the right place, then it gets easier.
I think that's right. I think, the more sort of regularly you go somewhere, the anxiety does lift.
Yeah.
Lift a bit. But I think whichever everyday social places you're going to, whether it's the shop, supermarket, or wherever you're going, it still carries a risk. I don't know if risk is the right word, but it still carries the chances rather than risk of unexpected social interactions happening.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking back, I'm thinking back now like over 10 years ago, but I remember just taking really, really tiny steps, so I think sometimes people feel like they need to do a massive thing, like, oh, I should take myself out to a club by myself.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really big thing to do. I remember doing things like, right, I'm just going to pop to the shop. Like, I'm just going to go to the shop on my own, or I'm just going to go for a walk today, like a 20-minute walk, just walk around the streets where I live. Like, sometimes you just need to take little small steps and just build up, because even those tiny things can be really hard for someone. So sometimes it's about just doing really tiny little things that are a little bit out of your comfort zone and then kind of slowly building up.
Yeah, I've learned now is that when I tend to go out on my own, as I take things with me to help me help my anxiety calm down. So I'll take a little sensory toy with me.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes I take like a little rubber wheel that I squeeze, or there's a marble mover that I move up and down.
Oh, okay.
As well. I think as I've got older and more knowledgeable about neurodivergent factors, the more I sort of normalise those sort of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never really used those kind of what do you call them? Sensory
tools.
Tools.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always just headphones. Like, that's the thing I rely on. If I'm out, my headphones are in, and I just kind of listen to my podcast, I listen to my music, and that always makes me feel more secure.
Yeah, I think those sort of things we'll definitely explore in a future episode.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking here, and episode 3, which I think we're going to have loads to say on that, is social anxiety and work. Now, I'm thinking more sort of the social aspect of work, and I think we're going to have a lot to say about that.
I think so. Thanks very much for listening to episode 2.
See you next week.